You know, it's amazing when we think about it. I try to explain to my children what that was like, you know, and all of them went to about 3 or 4 different schools. But the unity that's engendered by that kind of experience that we had, and not much different when the kids came from Winston Street in East Clinton, you know, or West Clinton rather, we built that same kind of esprit de corps with them. The spiritual bonding that I felt with you last night, that I feel again with you tonight. Our teachers, what can we say about them? They were first and foremost master teachers, professionals who knew their subject matter and how to pass it on. Mr. Comer has already been mentioned. Mr. Comer was a magician. Mr. Comer was an exciting science teacher. Right, dude? Some of you might not know it, but that's what he called C, dude, you know. But he was a wonderful teacher who made do with, I guess, almost not separate but equal, you know. But he had a way of making even the worst class clown a serious student of science. And when I think about the products that he created, developed, you know, in our class we have 3 physicians, you know. One of them's here with us tonight, Dr. Green. We have Carolyn Bolly. We have Ernest Claiborne. We have other folk who went on and did great things in the sciences, you know. I know I get in trouble when I start calling names here, but Danette here, for example. All largely because of Mr. Comer's influence, a wonderful teacher. Of course, Ms. Turner, great teacher of the humanities and language arts, who made sure, she was the one that Robert referred to. I think she started that, had most influence on that speech requirement, I believe, Robert, than anybody. She oversaw that thing. Didn't mind having students read challenging books, encouraged it, radical books even. I remember reading the works of J.D. Salinger, which a lot of backward school districts still to this day won't let students read. She encouraged that and had me do book reports on books such as that. Then there comes Mr. Isaac Rooks, master social sciences teacher, model for us all because he was just the epitome of the Renaissance man, you know, who did it all. And we wanted to be like him, you know. He was not only a great teacher, he was also a musician, sang, played alto saxophone. He was our track coach and about the meanest dresser on the campus, you know. Look at him now. You see what he's got on? Look, it's that. But Mr. Rooks was a combination, and I embarrass him when I say this, but he was John Hope Franklin, Charlie Parker, Billy Eckstein, and Jesse Owens all wrapped up in one, you know. And we really took delight in him, and we learned a heck of a lot about not only the social sciences, but about life from Mr. Rooks. He was not the only one who was the Renaissance man. I see Mr. Clark here, Dr. Clark, who taught us marketable skills in the industrial arts shop. You know, Kelly has already thanked him for getting him started in his life's direction, life path. But Mr. Clark also was a musician, a singer, a wonderful singer with a classic lyrical tenor voice, a wonderful tenor voice. And he would sing with us frequently and then take us back to the shop and teach us all those great skills that he was capable of teaching us. There were others. I know I get in trouble in calling names, but Miss Street, who developed our global consciousness back in the highly insulated 1950s. You know, she, in trying to get us interested in languages, was preparing us for a much larger world in Huntsville than Alabama. than the United States. You know, and she did a wonderful job in that. Of course, Ms. Roper, Ms. Pulley, again, taught marketable skills to our students back then and provided us with skills that have become more indispensable with each passing day. I think Ms. Pulley was the one who taught me typing, you know. I never would have dreamed I'm so dependent on my typing skills, you know, with the coming of the computer age. So they were clairvoyant also. Thank God I took type. Now's the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. Remember? Hey, oh yeah, oh yeah. But there are so many others that I could name, and I should name, but time won't allow it. I must say a word or two about those individuals, however, who enriched our lives through co-curricular activities. Ms. Gandy, Mr. Hill, Coach Kellum, Coach Davis. Ms. Gandy contributed greatly to our humanistic development. She taught us classics of English literature. And with the choir, she introduced us to the works of Handel, Rossini, as well as the great traditional African-American spirituals. In the same way, Mr. Hill, our band director, introduced us to the works of Mendelssohn, Mozart, and Sousa. He did this by day and drove us to rhythm and blues gigs by night. These people taught us a healthy respect for the beauty of African-American culture, as well as that of the European or so-called classical tradition. We were able to understand, or made able to understand, that we were heirs to it all, that it was all ours, and moreover, that it all had merit. So I'd like to personally thank Mr. Hill, as I still try to abuse a trumpet. You know, I'll never stop. You introduced me to something rich and wonderful in my life, and I thank you for it. Mr. Kellum, our coach. You know, Mr. Kellum used to like to call me the bird who was with him longer than anybody. You know, he always called his boys birds, you know. You birds this, you birds that. There's a catch to what he was saying. I was actually the mascot as a kid, you know, as first, second, third grade or so. My big brother George saw that I became the mascot for the team. And I did that for a number of years. First year I was number 0. Next year I was number 1/2. Next year I was number 1, you know. But being with Mr. Kellum, and I played, of course, to 10th grade through the 12th, I learned a lot about goal setting, about teamwork, about preparation, about courage. You know, his motto could have been the same one that Benjamin Mays, the great president of Morehouse College, was known for. Benjamin Mays loved to say, not failure, but low aim is sin. Not failure, but low aim is sin. So in scheduling people like Howard High School, he showed his commitment to this ideal. I must admit that I, at 180 pounds, lined up across from a 300-pound Howard High School tackle. I often wish he'd aimed a little lower. Nevertheless, we always played them well, finally losing out to their size and their depth. But as I said, great lessons were learned. Those larger schools left those contests with a healthy respect for us, and we left knowing that we could compete with anyone, and that those old locker room cliches had some validity. You know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. A winner never quits and a quitter never wins. At various points in my life, I've faced some long odds, some trying times. I know that whatever character, whatever grace I've shown, in those times is in no small measure a reflection of the lessons learned from Coach Keller. I'd like to close with a quote from Clifton Talbert, who wrote a book entitled Once Upon a Time When We Were Colored. I think he's from over your way, young lady. I believe he's from over the Meridian way. But this book says it all, and it says what I feel about my Huntsville and Councill experience. You know, I could go on and on about other influences that I had here, what it meant growing up in the shadow of these two great institutions, Alabama A&M and Oakwood, and what that meant to me with my mama dragging me to everything they had out there, you know, that I saw my Mary McLeod Bethune, heard her speak, Adam Clayton Powell, you know, Duke Ellington Band, you know, all those things at Alabama A&M, Huntsville in the 50s, and they called me culturally deprived, you know, what? But I don't have time to go into that. Back to Clifton Talbert's statement in terms of what we were just saying about Councill. I began to think about my childhood and other values I learned as I grew up in an environment much like that experienced by thousands of other colored Americans. Even though segregation was a painful reality for us, there were some very good things that happened. Today I enjoy the broader society in which I live, and I would never want to return to forced segregation. But I also have a deeply felt sense that important values were conveyed to me in my colored childhood. Values we're in danger of losing in our integrated world. As a child, I was not only protected, but also nourished, encouraged, taught, and loved by people who, with no land, little money, and few other resources, displayed the strength of a love which knew no measure. I have come to believe that this love is the true value, the legitimate measure of a people's worth. It's very difficult to master the present and make a meaningful contribution to the future unless you understand and appreciate the past, the good with the bad. I believe that to forget our colored past is to forget ourselves, who we are, and what we've come from. In the words of James Weldon Johnson, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee, shattered beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Long live the memory of the William Hooper Councill High School. Thank you.